Okay, I'm Wayne Heilman. I am a business writer for the Colorado Springs Gazette. I have been there 39 years, and I have a little less than 1 year to go until I retire. I also worked for 2 years in Columbus, Nebraska, where I met Mrs. Heilman, my wife Donna, and I worked 3 months in the Torrington Bureau of the Hartford Courant.
Wonderful. And how did you first become interested in writing and become?
Well, I don't want this to sound sexist, but a pretty girl when I was in high school, asked me to write sports for the student newspaper, and I did. I eventually became the editor of the newspaper. We won the best award for the best in the county, and that was a big suburban Chicago county, because that's where I'm from, is Glen Ellen, Illinois. Went to the University of Missouri for the School of Journalism. One of the best in the country. Went all 4 years there. Only the last 2 you're in the School of Journalism. You get your other requirements out of the way first. And minored in economics and finance, thus why I'm in business. and that's how I ended up in journalism. I wrote a lot for both student newspapers at Mizzou. There was a private one owned by a thoroughly regrettable individual that drove the St. Louis Globe-Democrat into bankruptcy later. But then there was the Maneater that was owned by the student government. And then I also was a correspondent for the Kansas City Star and Times. But at Mizzou, you learn by doing. They publish a paper for the town of Columbia called the Columbia Missourian. So you have 2 reporting rotations and 2 copy editing rotations. So I did the State Capitol Bureau and City Hall. So I thought that prepared me well. It's helpful to be extroverted. And I am. You look at extrovert in the dictionary, there's a picture of me. I'm good at networking. I can work a room as well as anyone. And it's a relationship business, right? People have to trust you to tell you information that you may not write about right away. I knew about Amazon long before it was announced. I knew about Southwest at least a month before it was announced. But the mayor trusted me, right? He knew that I would work on it in the background, be ready for the moment it was announced, and we'd have our story put up as soon as it was. So it's, to me, you got to learn how to develop trusting relationships with people that you don't know. You got to learn. You got to beat them and develop a relationship of trust with them. The typical starting salary, I don't know what we pay starting reporters, but it's, you're not going to get rich writing for newspapers. The joke with my wife and I, she was a Catholic school teacher, is neither of us was going to get rich in our profession. In fact, the Bishop Hannafin used to tell her, your reward is in heaven, not in your paycheck. I said we both took our vow of poverty. No, that's not entirely true. We live in a nice town home in Briargate, so it's provided a nice standard of living for us, in part because I've invested well for retirement. 50,000 is probably 50 to 60 is a top end salary. A lot of papers this size. Well, it's changed in the last year, of course. I mostly worked at home, so I have my home office, and it's in the basement of our town home. We have a finished walkout basement, so it's nice. And it has a window. So I can see outside. It's
and working with other people, or how many hours?
Oh yeah. Well, typically I'm working weekdays 9 to 6 or so, Monday through Friday. But that varies. With on a big news day, I might end up working 10 or 12 hours. The day I took that inaugural flight, I had to be at the airport pretty early to clear security. The flight didn't leave till 10:30, but they wanted us there before 9 o'clock. So I had to leave my house no later than 8:30, right, to get all the way down from the middle of Briargate to inside the terminal. We didn't get back until after 4 o'clock. And write the story, I wrote part of it on the plane coming back. And believe me, it's not, or going there, it's not easy to write a news story on your iPhone. I wrote about 4 or 5 paragraphs just because we had to have at least part of the story to put with the photos, because the photos were done, when the flight departed at 10:30. So I made sure we had something to go with the photos, and that I would add to later. But before all this, I worked in the office. We have an office across the street from U.S. Bank, above the Melting Pot. It's the old First National Bank building. For many, many years, our office was just east of downtown, across from the old St. Francis Hospital. First thing, turn on the computer, and I like to get a good idea what's in my email box, right? If there's a big story in there, I'll ignore the rest of the emails and just get right in on that. On days when the state releases unemployment data and stuff like that, because the main economic writer, I'll get that data and start writing the story before all the Zoom conference, a Zoom press availability at 10. I'll have the story largely written before that and plug in the quotes from the conference afterwards with the state economist. And most of those Zoom conferences have been largely about other things, not about the numbers. It's about all the controversy with the fraudulent unemployment claims, the state's ID.me system, that was supposed to prevent unemployment fraud, but prevented a lot of people from continuing to receive their benefits because they can't get through the system. But a lot of the early part of the day, I'll be looking at email, I'll do a lot of phone interviews. Sometimes I'll go in person. Yesterday I did an in-person interview down at Phil Long. They're opening an electric vehicle outlet right across the street from Tesla. That story will probably end up on page 1 just for that very reason of, it's a electric vehicle used car lot right across the street from the world's most expensive new electric vehicles, right? You can easily drop 6 figures on a Tesla if you really try. But right now I'm in the middle of writing a story on how hard it is for employers to hire people. And there's a whole lot of issues surrounding that. Part of it is the extra unemployment compensation that people are getting. You can make $15 an hour on unemployment compensation, but it ends on Labor Day. Not a smart strategy for the long term, right? If you wait all the way till Labor Day, there might not be a job for you by the time your unemployment runs out. But there are many other issues too. Amazon's hiring more than 1,000 people for that distribution center down by the airport, plus a sorting center that's also under construction and 2 more delivery stations. And you have both Target and Walmart paying $15 an hour starting. Most of the grocery chains, both King's and Safeway's, pay $15 an hour. So does Costco. I think they actually pay more than 15. Hobby Lobby pays more than 15. So if you're paying the minimum wage, that's why nobody's showing up for the interviews, because they can get more doing something else. The benefits, it's a different thing every day, right? I'm covering something different every day. It's not an assembly line job. I'm always doing something different. Often for me, it's like a big puzzle, right? I get a little piece, and I'm trying to find the other pieces and put it all together to make a story. As Amazon won't tell you beans about what their plans are. You got to ferret it out, and they'll tell you, oh, we don't comment on rumor and speculation. I said, I have deeds, leases, and building plans. Don't tell me it's rumor and speculation. Those are facts.
See it right here.
Yeah, so I can put this all together without you and get other people to talk for you if that's what you really want.
And then any challenges that you've experienced?
Sometimes there's nights and weekends, and I've missed some things with my kids when they were younger. They're all grown now. But, I regret missing some things here and there. Usually yes, but not always. Sometimes you got to make a choice. Now, these days they're much more flexible about my time because I'm nearing the end of my career and they want to they're sensitive to my needs, I've got grandkids now that I want to spend time with and be able to go to their things. I have a grandson who's graduating from high school at Rampart later this month. Same age as you, probably.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's the variety. I cover lots. Most nationwide trends manifest themselves here early. So, if there's some big story happening nationally, there'll be a local angle here that's playing out that I can write about. Well, it's changed a lot. I mean, when I started at high school, I was writing on a manual typewriter. When I was first, I used some of the first computers. These were mainframes to write my stories at the Missourian and at the Columbus paper and at the Gazette. Only later did we go to PCs, and of course we become much more online oriented and social media oriented. I'm about 20 people away from my limit on Facebook. I have 4,979 friends. They're not really all friends. And I have almost 12,000 LinkedIn connections. So I've tried to use the social media well. I don't use them all. I just I don't find Instagram all that helpful for what I do. LinkedIn is much more business focused and thus much more important to what I do than that Instagram would be something a photographer would do. They would that would be their first first and most important social media. You've got to with social media, it's much more of a segmented audience. So and focus on a particular niche market. Well, I just say be ready to roll with the punches. It's the 10 years between 2005 and well, it wasn't quite 10 years, maybe 7 years between 2005 when Freedom went the Freedom Communications, the former parent company, and the Gazette went bankrupt, and we were bought by Anschutz. Were rough years. There were lots of layoffs. Lots of good people left their jobs. And not every paper is fortunate enough to get bought by a billionaire like we were. Phil Anschutz owns the Gazette, same guy who owns the Broadmoor. So he's worth over $10 billion. So and he's been a very good owner. I have thanked the family many times that they bought the paper because I'd probably be doing something else if they hadn't. Because Freedom ended up being bought by a investment group, then filed for bankruptcy again and got bought by the same hedge fund that owns the Denver Post. They would have gutted us. We would have been, if you've seen the Boulder Camera, that was once a full-fledged newspaper. Now it's kind of just a division of the Post. That's what we would have been. Had the Gazette not been bought by the Anschutz Corporation. We're extremely fortunate. So I would say be ready for change, and lots of it, and sometimes a rough ride. There's still been waves of at the Denver Post. We had our City Hall reporter go to work up there from the Gazette. He's had several furloughs during COVID, and there've been more layoffs and buyouts. So I don't know that in our industry we have fully found the route forward yet to a sustainable future that is both in print and online, and maybe long after I'm retired there might not be print anymore. The Denver Gazette, by the way, is a online only publication.